Abibi Fahodie, brothers
Hey.
and sisters. It's Bama Deli, my beautiful wife Naila. We're back again. We just wanted to talk about a topic that's very relevant to African people.
Right.
Because everything we do it in the service of African people. And that's the topic of relationships. Now, we've already done one video, choosing your mate the African way.
Right.
But as with all topics, we feel that this is one that deserves extra care and attention. So we'll be going through just some insights that we've gathered
Right.
in terms of what helped our relationship and things we felt that would be useful in other people, either in relationships or in the process or seeking to develop a relationship.
Right.
So one of the main things I think we want to communicate is we live, and I'm talking about people in the diaspora in America. It's a society that teaches us to think that anything we're seeking, it should be seeking to find something.
Right.
And what that does is it prevents relationships from happening organically.
Organically, right.
And on a spiritual level, if you think about it, all spiritual enlightenment begins before you do that seeking process. It begins with the act of self-knowledge, meaning if there is no basis of self-knowledge, then everything else is going to be confused, everything else is going to be out of order and off balance. So what we want to communicate is all healthy relationships begin before those involved even meet. So when I think about the relationship I have with my wife, it began in that moment of self-knowledge that I had before I met her.
Right.
Because I knew who I was. When I met her, I could recognize who she was, and vice versa. So can you share anything with our audience about the importance of self-knowledge as that spark that begins the relationship before we even see each other, before you even meet your future wife or future husband?
Right. The importance is very, very serious. I mean, like, going into something new and you don't know yourself, you're going to be set up for a lot of confusion, a lot of obstacles, a lot of just games. It's going to be very obvious that, you know, the situation that you're in isn't centered on something serious.
Right.
And once you understand who you are, mainly as an African person, that it's much easier to recognize who your enemy is and who your enemy isn't. And be much more intentional with your relationships. And like my husband said, just like healthy relationships start before the two people meet, unhealthy relationships also start prior to the two people meeting.
And if self-knowledge is the seed for the healthy, what is the seed for the unhealthy relationship? Self-ignorance. So when you have an ignorance of yourself, you're laying the groundwork, you're tilling the soil for unhealthy relationships to manifest in your future.
Yeah.
So if you don't want those unhealthy relationships to manifest, before you even begin putting yourself on the market, so to speak, which is another problematic language we use, before you go out to try, find your mate, ask yourself, do I know who I am?
Yeah.
Am I acting out of my African mind or am I acting out of my European mind?
And we have to stop referring to relationships as games and using verbiage that doesn't actually pinpoint what a relationship really means. Like using economical terms like the market. Like that has relationships and those are two separate things.
Or calling it the chase. You know, this type of language and verbiage, what it does, it subconsciously trivializes what relationships are about.
Right.
And what relationships are about, it's about a sacred union between two people in which they express their self-knowledge through their relationship with someone else.
Right.
And that self-knowledge is just a part of the ultimate knowledge, which is the knowledge of our Creator, the knowledge of God.
A God-centered relationship.
A God-centered relationship. And those God-centered relationships, they're always knowledge-based. They aren't based on materialistic things or feelings. They're based on, am I evolving? So that's what...
Is he evolving and am I evolving?
Yes. So one of the trademarks when you're looking at a relationship, whether or not you can tell it's healthy, is it'll be characterized by a lot of dynamism, meaning when you look at the people, you'll notice it'll be visible, noticeable changes in that person, how they speak, how they eat, how they think.
Right.
All this will be changing, and that's just evidence of the godliness of their relationship. Not godliness in the sense of being religious, but godly in the sense that they're honoring their innermost self. They're honoring their Africanity.
Which is God.
That is God.
Right.
So that's the first point we want to communicate. Healthy relationships begin before the people meet,
right,
in the seed of self-knowledge, and unhealthy relationships also begin before the people meet in the seed of self-ignorance. Okay, so the next thing we wanted to point out, and I kind of alluded to this briefly, healthy relationships make you more perceptive of the truth. You know, so, and this goes to the reality of being an African in an anti-African reality.
Yeah.
When you're an African in an anti-African reality, it's critical that we're always have our antenna up, that we're always looking out for the lies.
Your ear gates are always open and keen, not just open, but keen and listening for the inconsistencies and the lies at all times.
So that kind of ability to perceive truth and detect lies, what that does, it feeds the relationship. Because now all the interactions you have with your significant other, whether it be your wife or your husband, it breeds more trust. It breeds more development. It breeds more growth, understanding and growth. And whenever you have someone who closes their ears to truth, they're sowing the seeds of destruction.
Yes.
They aren't allowing anything to manifest in that relationship that could really be segued into something productive.
Yes.
You know, and so you have to hold truth in high esteem, not just in how you talk to each other, but in how you talk together about the external world.
Right.
And that brings us to another point about healthy relationships. Is healthy relationships, they aren't defined as this kind of contest between two personalities.
Yeah.
The personalities in a healthy relationship, they complement each other.
Complementarity.
And when those personalities complement each other, it's always in the service of attacking an imbalance in the external world.
In the society.
So the relationship is geared around restoring balance in the universe, not trying to achieve or strike this balance between two conflicting personalities.
No, not
remember,
trying to make it work.
And
there's no such thing as making it work in an African-centered relationship.
So and most people ask, well, no two people get along perfectly. How does that happen? How is it that you can have a relationship where most of the energy is directed towards restoring balance in the external world and not a conflict of personalities? It goes back to what I said at the beginning. The two people achieved a certain level of self-knowledge before they met, but that spares them from the task of trying to balance personalities.
Yeah.
And when two people meet each other, know themselves prior to meeting each other, now it simplifies their relationship.
Yep.
They don't have to I don't have to, when I talk to my wife, I don't have to worry about trying to deal with certain insecurities and all these kind of psychological traumas that America inflicts on people. Manipulation.
Using people.
And that doesn't mean that we come to the relationship perfect, because nobody is completely cleansed of insecurities.
Right.
But there's a certain level of understanding, and we have a respect for the type of internal work that's necessary to grow.
Right.
So that when I feel that there's an imbalance going on in my wife, I'm very patient with it, because I did that work on myself. You know, so when you have the patience for yourself, you have the patience for others.
Right.
Everything goes back to that self-development.
Yes.
You master development of the self, you become a more sensitive, empathetic, attentive person.
Right.
And you can deal with anything in your partner.
But America is an individualist society.
Yes.
So the likeliness of you coming into contact with people like that is very unlikely, because we aren't doing the self-work.
Yes.
We're too busy. We're too busy engaging in other outside things. Anything outside of ourselves, that's what we want to be engaging in. And what we have to understand is we have to do the internal work. We need silence. We need stillness, isolation, peace. All those things you don't have in America.
Yes.
You're always bombarded with something to do, something to see, something to go to, something to watch.
Yes.
And what we're saying is you need the stillness and the silence to be able to work on that self, so that when you get into the relationship with your mate, everything becomes simplified to the common denominator. You don't have all this strife and this conflict. Now, I'm not saying it's, like we said, it's not perfect, but you don't have a lot of the issues that you see a lot of these our African relationships going through, Black relationships going through. No, those things don't come into being.
Right. And my wife, she perfectly segues into our next topic, because she says you have to have your relationship where you can achieve that space of stillness that is the soil of creation. So we have to ask ourselves, why is it that a lot of these African relationships don't have the luxury of experiencing that stillness? Now we're getting into the topic of what we call embellishments. We embellish our relationships with things that add no substance to it.
At all.
Whether it's the jobs, whether it's the money, whether it's the accolades, the appearance, a bigger house, a bigger car, children. Sometimes we use children, our greatest technology, our greatest gift from Yahweh. We use our children as an embellishment of the relationship. Things that aren't really speaking to the kind of spiritual essence of the relationship, but is really just trying to accommodate some dysfunction that we are unwilling to deal with because
we don't want to be alone.
We haven't done that self-work. We haven't dealt with the fears that we have.
Right.
And when we don't deal with fears, what do? We embellish, we cover up, we conceal, we make excuses.
Which is the same traits of Europeans.
Yes.
And we've been taught their traits, so we do those same things. And we do them without even realizing that we're doing them. We think it's just our personality. Really, our personality has been given to us by the oppressor.
So,
which is why we have problems in our relationships.
So if the problem with unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship are embellishments, what does a healthy relationship manifest? A healthy relationship is stripped down and bare. Simple. Simplify your relationship. Our relationship enhanced tremendously when we gave away our material stuff before we moved to the continent. We had a townhouse, we had 2 cars, we had all types of clothes and furniture. When we gave that away, our relationship got more rich, not less rich. And because when we gave those material things away, we were placing an emphasis on the immaterial, intangible things. Things like quality time, things like knowledge sharing, things like
raising children, eating right, eating healthy.
All of these things, this brings you together closer on a spiritual level, and it enhances and enriches your relationship in ways that material things cannot
do. And there's a reason why you're bombarded with these, why you keep seeing these relationships with all these material things and it looks appealing. There's a reason why they're showing that to you, because they want you to focus on the embellishments.
Yes.
They don't want African people to say, wow, we don't need all these things. We actually just need each other, our child, and Yahweh.
Right.
And because then you become a threat.
Right.
That's the real threat of African relationships. It's not just black love under attack. No, they understand when a black man and a black woman come together and they say, wow, this world is not in its right place. Let's find a way to fix the world together with our family and with our child. That's what they're scared of. They're not scared of just black love, 2 people loving each other in a toxic relationship. That's not a threat to them. They would much rather you be together and be toxic and arguing and fighting and doing all these non-productive things. They're okay with that. What they're not okay with is an African relationship. That's what's under attack, not black love.
And African relationships are distinct, and we're going to get to this later, from black love.
Right.
And that African relationships are mission-oriented.
Yes.
Meaning they aren't about satisfying the personality of the mate. We have a larger mission beyond myself and my wife.
Right.
And we have a larger commitment to African people. And the relationship is our vehicle by which we can bring that into reality.
Existence.
Bring that into existence.
What is the mission for your relationship?
What is the mission?
Can you ask you and your partner, if you separated y'all and put them in 2 different rooms, can both of y'all state the mission of the relationship?
Right. And if you can't, and if it's not on one accord, that's sign of some type of discord.
Right.
But we're going to get to that later, but I want to get to the next point. The next point is healthy relationships are abundance-centered, not scarcity-centered.
Yes.
Meaning your value to the relationship isn't, or you don't gauge how valuable the relationship is based on how much your partner is doing for you. You gauge it by how much are you doing for your partner. Am I being a contributor?
We're not a receiving type of relationship. It's all about contributing, not receiving.
Your hands shouldn't be open. Your hands should always be full.
Yes.
Full of things to give to
contribute.
Your partner. And it's not always material. I mean immaterial things. Sharing knowledge with your partner.
Yes.
Sharing time with your partner.
Eating healthy.
Sharing insight with your partner. These are the immaterial things that come out of a spirit of abundance.
Yes.
And the real interesting thing, and it just came to me about the spirit of abundance, is you'll notice the less material things you have, the more abundantly you'll be in your spirit. That's very contradictory, because we think of abundance as coming from great material wealth.
We do.
No, abundance comes from great spiritual wealth. When you're spiritually wealthy, you become abundant. So even if you have little, you still give.
You got a lot.
Even if you have little.
Yeah.
You know, like, so when we were in America, we weren't living rich, but when my wife's relative came to live with us, it wasn't a problem for us.
Yeah,
We didn't have a long conversation. We were just like, fine, rent.
Come.
You don't even have to pay us anything. Why? Because we were spiritually rich. And that spiritual richness leads to an abundance on every level in your life.
Right.
But people who are materially spoiled, people who drown themselves in materialism, how do they act? They act stingy. They act with a scarcity mindset. You're surrounded by all this material stuff, but you don't want to share any of it. Why? Because you're so in love and attached and infatuated with that material stuff.
And those are the most unhappy people. We see this all the time in Hollywood. The people with the most money are usually the most miserable.
Robin Williams. That's what happens. So you have to break this ideology that tells you that what you have materially somehow enables you to change spiritually.
Nope. Those are the most spiritually empty people.
Yes, prosperity gospel.
You try to talk with them, they are you speaking another language? That's what they would ask.
So I'll skip. The next one was healthy relationships are dynamic, not just long lasting. But I really want to focus on this one. Healthy relationships are mission oriented. They're subversive and they're uncomfortable with the status quo.
At all times.
At all times. Meaning, if your relationship isn't upsetting something in the conventional world, then you're failing at your task of cultivating a healthy relationship. Because you're living in a society that is deeply mental-sidal and that is waging a war against African people.
Very much.
So you have to ask, as African people in an anti-African reality, am I manifesting characteristics within my relationships that prevent that anti-African reality from declaring victory? And if that's not true, then you're cooperating with that anti-African reality. There's a famous Akan proverb that says, the family is an army. The family is an army. Why is the family an army? Because in the African-centered perspective, the family is that unit that manifests all the strength and energy of the village.
Yep.
Within that, that's the embryo of the nation, the family.
Yep.
So we have to start looking at our relationships not just as kind of receptacles
fun
of satisfaction,
things to do.
things to have fun. No, your relationship is a military unit. Meaning it should have military discipline.
Yes.
There should be a unity of mind on what you perceive in
One
the world.
accord.
One accord. Like if you take me and my wife and you separate us and ask us questions, we will have the same answer. Not because I told her to answer a certain way and not because she told me to answer a certain way. No, because we both have a direct line to our Creator. And when you achieve that direct line to your Creator, you will always operate on one accord with no worries. But if you're operating on the accord of man, then it's going to be conflicting. Then you're going to be in that pot of confusion.
Compromising in
You're going to
every
be
level.
compromised. So you have to militarize your relationship, meaning discipline your relationship in a way that you know that no matter what the situation is, we're always going to have the same perspective because we both worship the same Creator.
And have a mission.
Have a mission.
Write it down if you need to. Y'all need to figure out what is it that we're supposed to be achieving in this relationship. And it's outside of jobs.
Yes.
Because all those things can be taken away. You can't take away our mission, which is the liberation of African people.
Yes.
You can't take that away.
Yes.
You need to have a concrete mission that can be achieved outside of the society that you're living in.
If your relationship can be compromised by any action of someone else, that means you're investing in the wrong things.
Yes.
You know.
Something is off. And we can also talk about, remember when I asked you about the healthy relationships and people that say, well, we've been married this long.
Yes.
So
yes.
How do you,
So this goes to the point of this idea of good relationships versus revolutionary relationships. That's what I'll say. Because a good relationship is a relationship. We've been married 50 years. We have children. We have grandchildren.
We're happy.
We are happy, But there's been no real evolution in terms of your outlook. No real evolution in terms of your mindset.
Stagnant.
You're stagnant and you've become almost like rigidly locked into a certain way of doing things.
Right.
To the point that if any suggestion were to be made that this should change, it instantly invites opposition because this is the way we do things.
Right.
Now, that type of energy is not healthy for a relationship because we have to understand as African people with the connection to our ancestors, we should be constantly asking ourselves, how are we becoming more aligned with the Creator's plan? How are we becoming more aligned with what our ancestors want for us?
Constant evolvement.
And again, it goes back to the knowledge-based relationship. When your relationship is knowledge-based, you have to ask yourself, is it possible to know everything in the world? No. And since it's not impossible to know everything in the world, it's impossible to stop evolving.
Right.
As long as there's something to learn, there's something to improve in the relationship. You have to make yourself teachable.
Yes.
Make yourself teachable to your spouse. My wife teaches me things, I teach my wife things. We teach each other things.
We teach our child things.
We teach
he
our
teaches
child
us things.
He teaches us things. Turn your relationship into a classroom. That should be your university.
Yeah.
And that's a university, and it's tuition free. You have nothing to lose in that.
Right.
And also, earning accolades in that university will actually enhance your life. It won't put you in debt. It won't dumb you down. It won't get you to adopt these kind of Eurocentric ideologies that disown your Africanness. This is the type of make your relationship into higher education.
Yes.
You know,
and your family.
Your family.
Make that into the accolade that you want.
Read around your children. Read to your children. Discuss society with your children. Discuss society with your partners.
It's gonna be given to them either way. It might as well come from you.
And we talk about, because it's a cliche, they say black love is under attack.
Nah.
Well, if it's under attack, we have to ask ourselves, why aren't black relationships or black couples, whether married or not, why aren't they acting in ways that exemplify any kind of defense mindset?
Yes.
Our relationships are very undefended in how we present them, whether it's through how we present them on social media. This phenomenon of, and this is speaking to the men, if you're a man in a relationship and the woman you're with is constantly broadcasting you, but when we look at your profile, we don't see any of her, that's a sign that something is off balance.
Right.
That's a sign that reciprocity isn't at work. That's a sign that you aren't as proud of her as she is of you. And it's not a sign of weakness or lack of manhood to show that you love the woman you're with. That's a European thing. That's a European thing.
European men hate their
women. You're
women.
looking at your wife or your girlfriend as a liability, and what we're saying is she's the biggest asset for you.
Yes.
A lot of times she's the only asset for you, because remember, the women declare the war. The men fight the wars, but the women declare it. So we have to ask ourselves, if men out there, if you want to be warriors, who is declaring the war for you? You can't declare the war yourself. You have to have a woman next to you who can perceive the truth, who hasn't closed her ears, who has scanned the environment and knows that something is off balance.
Can she recognize balance?
And if you don't have that in your ear, you're literally walking into the battlefield without any armor. These aren't just things to make you feel good. These are survival tactics. This is how you survive in an anti-African reality.
Yes.
Understand that the black relationship, the African relationship, is a military unit.
And it's crazy because they use the wordage all the time. Like you said, it's under attack. It's under attack. Black love is under attack. But like you said, what are we doing to stop the attack? And why is it under attack? Did we ask that question? Why? Yes. And I said that earlier. It's under attack because Europeans understand this, but we're saying they understand this better than we do.
Yes.
They understand the power of the African man and the African woman, understanding that they're African, coming together, raising African children. That's scary for them. Not black love. Not black love. Black love is European love.
They fear the African Trinity.
Yes.
Because black love doesn't address the black child.
Yes.
But the African Trinity, the child is in there.
Let's explain how black love is European love.
Black love is European love because it's very narcissistic in that it's only designed to satisfy the man and the woman in the relationship without any higher commitment to spiritual development or evolution.
We said there's no mission.
That's why black love is European. It's self-centered. It doesn't address what's the responsibility to the collective. What's the responsibility to the village?
African people as a whole. We have to stop looking at ourselves as individuals. That's the biggest trick of the enemy that told you that you're an individual. You are not an individual. You are a collective people. Europeans are individual. They came from the ice. They had to fend for themselves. We didn't come from that. We came from abundance. They came from scarcity. We cannot apply the same traits that they use to their relationships and their lives to ours. We're Africans, they're Europeans. We're different. We are not the same. Once we understand that, then our relationships will go to another level, and we won't have these same problems that Europeans have placed upon us. This is not an African thing that to see these black relationships go through what we go through. This is not an African thing. This is a European thing.
And Naeem Akbar, and this is just a reading recommendation I have for the viewers. He wrote a book called Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. And in that book, he has some quotes from the slave period. And one of the quotes, it was written by, I believe, I don't remember the book name, but the essential point of it was that on the plantation, the father was irrelevant. There was no use for the father on the plantation. Dang. Why was the father useless on the plantation? Because the father challenged the hierarchy of power on the plantation. Who was the father on the plantation? The father on the plantation was the white man. And who is the father today? The white man. So we have to ask ourselves, just as a part of this African relationship, black men, start asserting yourselves as fathers. If you're a father, I'm asking you, what are you doing to assert yourself as a father? What are you doing to show that you are in the care, you have people under your care? Because when you assert yourself as a father, you're upsetting the hierarchy that has plagued us since the slave days. And I think, and this isn't a statement about economics. This isn't a statement about being able to provide. No, this is a statement about saying, I want to fight. I want to fight. You don't need any money to fight. Nat Turner didn't have a dime in his pocket when he waged the revolution. How many dimes you have in your pocket? And you probably can do more than Nat Turner. Nat Turner couldn't buy a weapon. He had to raid a depot and find the weapons. You can buy a weapon. So I'm telling you, fight, present, and assert yourself as a father. Upset the hierarchy that has plagued us since the slave days.
And we're not even asking you to go to the extent that he went to. We're just saying, fight for your family.
Fight for your family.
Fight for your African. Realize you're African, number one. Realize that you need an African woman and fight together. Raise African children.
And I'm not even saying, because a lot of guys are like, well, I don't have any biological children. If you walk outside your house and you see a black African child, that's your child. Mikey is my child. He's an African boy.
We have to get out of this mindset. You do you and I do me and they do they. No, we are one.
What affects one affects all.
Because if that was the case, we already in Africa. We could have just easily been like, well, we here. Forget everything that's over there. No, we want our African people to come home and be here with us in safety. It's not about just us. We're not content with just us being here. That's not enough.
If you want to drain all of the revolutionary energy out of man, restrict his social groups to just men. Restrict his social groups to just the brothers. But keep all the women and children away from him, as far away as possible. Because the white people understand this. The minute you start to surround an African man with women and children, his African self starts to awaken.
Ooh,
he becomes an Asafo instantly. He's like, I gotta protect these people. Because when he's around men, he doesn't feel he has to protect them. That's other grown men. When I'm around my wife and my son, I know I have to protect them. I know if something happens, I have to fight. There's no option for me. All these men who hang around men 24/7, y'all don't want to fight. That's what's wrong with y'all. Y'all don't want to fight. Y'all don't want to fight. Fight. Please fight. Anybody. Get like a cardboard cutout of a white man and just practice punching it. And then just to get it out your system. Practice. Do something. But stop having this European idea that women and children are liabilities. They are literally what is going to awaken the revolutionary within you. Before I met my wife and my son, I used to read a lot. I knew about history of revolution. I knew about Thomas Sankara. I knew about Patrice Lumumba. I knew about Fidel Castro. I knew about all this stuff, but I was like, that's an interesting story. Now when I read them, I'm like, oh, they actually, this is an example. This is inspiration.
Right.
They're telling me how to defend things. They're telling me how to fight. They're telling me how to stand up. They're telling me it's better to die fighting than to live on your back. This is how you create strong, healthy relationships. Not walking around making excuses, not protesting, not trying to assassinate the character of women and children. That's not how you develop healthy relationships. We should be angry because this is a just cause to be angry.
It is.
And I don't see anybody gritting their teeth unless they're in front of another black man or a black woman or a black child. Grit your teeth in the face of your enemies and create an African-centered relationship. This is how we liberate ourselves.
Yes.
It's not by buying a car. It's not by buying land. It's not by investing in stock. It's not by opening a business or building real estate.
Yes.
It's about understanding you're an African who is tasked with protecting African women and children in defense of your creator who created you all. That's your job.
That's the tweet.
That's the tweet. That's the I'm done.
No, because we're so passionate about this because we see where our African people are going in a lot of avenues, but especially in relationships. Like, it's so sad to see the things that we're going through, the things that we tolerate as African women. We're not even pursuing African men. We're pursuing European men.
Yeah, y'all need, like, women, because this is the thing. I feel women underestimate how much power they have in relationships. Like, imagine if women just started saying, unless you are African, meaning unless you're an Asafo warrior who's willing to kill and die for African people,
I can't do nothing.
Get out my face. Get out my face. I don't care about what job you have. I don't care about, where you been or, how many other men.
What sorority, what fraternity
you're I don't care about any of that. What is your responsibility to African liberation? When women start to say that, men will start to act right. But as long as we make excuses, they make excuses and accommodate these servile, buck-broken men, then we're going to have buck-broken societies and buck-broken schools and buck-broken churches
and buck-broken
children. All of that. Stop that. Stop it. We can stop it. We can stop it.
We can.
It's not too late. It's never too late. As long as it's air in our lungs, it's never too late. But we first have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
We first have to make it a priority, and it begins by loving the woman you're with and loving your child.
Yes.
And loving yourself. First.
And loving Yahweh and not the God that they gave you. The God that they talk about in America is a white man. Not that God. Yahweh. There's a difference.
His name is Yahweh.
And Jesus' name is not Jesus. His name is Yeshua ben Yosef.
If Yeshua came back and you screamed Jesus, he'd keep walking. Because he'd be like, who
is he talking to?
He's like,
you call him a Christian, he's going to be like, what is that?
What is a Christian?
What is a Christian? Yeshua will be confused.
He'd be like, I'm a rebel. Like,
and if the people that could take Yeshua's image and make it white, why do you think they wouldn't take the Bible and misconstrue his words? They misconstrue the image. Yeah. That's blasphemy.
John Henrik Clarke said it. One of the most devastating things that the European did to the African was colonize the image of God. Because the Europeans understood once we colonize the image of God, we colonize your reality.
Showing globes with white hands. What is that?
Yeah, remember that picture?
That got into your mind as a child.
The world is in the hands of God, but it's a melanin deficient hand.
Recessive hand.
A recessive
holding
hand
the world.
Holding the world. How?
Come on. That's blasphemy. And we should have known right then and there these people are irredeemable. We shouldn't even have to wait for anything else they do. You colonized and you lied about the creator being having a skin color at that. But then you made it recessively white?
Insult. That's blasphemy.
Insult.
That's blasphemy. That's the ultimate disrespect of God. To put your arrogance ahead of his honor. To say, I want my ego served before I serve you.
Nope.
What kind of people do that?
Unforgivable. And there is a thing.
Unforgivable.
We should start practicing that.
So the takeaway from this is...
What's the last one? Oh, that's the military units. Okay.
The takeaway from this is we have to understand African relationships are a military unit. African relationships are enriched and valuable to the extent that they operate with knowledge of the African Trinity,
yes,
which is the mother, the father, and the child. And African men, and this is my disclaimer, African men become powerful to the extent that they restrict all of their movements to movements within that Trinity. Meaning, unless it's serving your wife or your child, then it's counterproductive.
You don't participate.
It's against the interest of African liberation. Now, do you have anything to say? What's the women for the women who may be watching? What's their responsibility?
Women, your responsibility is to know yourself, know you're African, seek African men, and understand your mission in that relationship.
Yeah. Understand your mission.
Understand your mission in that relationship. And understand that it's not just about what you want. It's not about feelings. It's not about your type.
No such thing. If he's African, that's your type.
He's your type if he's African.
Yeah. This whole thing, this love language thing, and we indulged in that for a little while.
Yeah, we did.
But we understand that that's really just a game. That's a game just to distract you from the fact that what's imperative
you're an
is
African.
that you're an African.
That's your love language.
Your love,
Africanity.
My love language is African. What's your love language?
African.
Cool.
Mikey, what's your love language?
What's your love language? My love language is African. Your mom love language African. What's your love language?
African.
African?
Yeah.
How? Must be a coincidence. And also notice we have a kind of a good, flowing relationship. Maybe because we're not menticidal to say we're somebody else. Maybe that's why.
Maybe we know who we are and we're not confused and we're not operating from European mindsets.
Here's the thing, when you're African, when you assert yourself as an African, even a dysfunctional African is better than a functional European. Meaning, when you assert yourself as an African, even when it's struggle within the relationship, it's still at a much higher level than the most functional, healthy, Europeanized relationship. Why? Because the African never loses connection with the Creator.
Nope.
Never.
It's no such thing.
So even when you struggle, the Creator is right there with you. Mm-hmm. When you struggle as a European, the Creator ain't even going to acknowledge you because that ain't even His children. Creator don't acknowledge nobody but His children. So we need to start talking to our Father.
For real.
And
not, like I said, not the white man, not the God that they told you about in America.
Yeah.
Your real Father.
Your
Yahweh.
biological father.
Yes.
Yahweh. Not your stepfather.
You gotta. That's what's happening. You're literally in America calling your stepdad your dad.
Even though y'all completely different skin colors, completely completely different hair texture, completely different asili, completely different origins. Your daddy don't even got no rhythm, but you walking around calling him daddy. That ain't your daddy.
How? Where?
That's not your daddy.
You confused. Nope.
Stop being, what's the word? The Swahili word?
What?
Pole. Slow.
No,
Stop it.
We have to clarify when we say God. We're not talking about the same God that you think we talk about. So.
This is the importance of African relationships. This isn't black love. This is African relationships. With a K, not with a C, with a K.
With a K.
That doesn't mean we can't spell.
We can spell. We can definitely spell.
So, is that everything? I think that was everything.
That's everything, yeah.
So, I know we talked about a lot. I know we were very passionate, like always. We love African people so much. We love you all. We love you all so much. We can't iterate that enough. But thank y'all for watching.
Thank y'all for watching.
We will see y'all next time.
Love
Bye.
you guys.
Wait, guys, check out my channel, please.
Yeah. Check out Mikey's channel.
Yeah.
Diary of an African Child.
Diary of an African Child.
Not a kid because that's a baby goat.
Peace.